Hi, it's Dan from EUJUICERS.COM, and in this video I'm going to show you how you can make raw desserts, in this case raw chocolate bars, using a Sauna EUJ-707 horizontal juicer. This is something I just tried last week. We recently had a new raw restaurant open up in our town, first one actually in our city. And my wife and I went there this last weekend, and she got a raw matcha cake. And she came home, she really liked it, and she said, is there some way we can make this at home? And we were thinking, especially for our kids like chocolate, they like sweet things, and most of those aren't so healthy. So I looked around online, saw a couple of recipes, and found one that was really simple. And then as it turns out, one of the guys here at EU Juicer, he's right there on the other side of the camera, had actually come up with a similar recipe, and that's what I'm going to try today. And the nice thing about it is these recipes are real simple, real fast, and because they're raw, there is no cooking involved. The ones I made some chocolate truffles using just 3 ingredients, and it took me about 10 minutes. I'm curious to see how this goes. This is very similar. So let me just show you real quick what's involved, or the ingredients in this. First of all are some dates. These are the medul dates, the real nice ones, and I've gone ahead and pitted them. I'm going to need to soak them in water just for a few minutes, soften them up a bit. They're already pretty soft, but it'll just add a little moisture, make everything hold together. Next, I've got some nuts here, in this case raw cashews. You don't want to get the baked ones, the salted and baked ones. That's great if you're making cashew butter or some kind of nut butter, but again, this is a raw dessert. Plus, they process a lot better. They're much softer, they're smoother, and the thing to remember in this recipe is I've got a cup of each, but you just need to keep a 1-to-1 ratio of the dates to the nuts. And the nuts are interchangeable. You can use a few different things. I've seen recipes with seeds, sunflower seeds, different kinds of seeds, walnuts, pecans, almonds, all sorts of things. So you can mix and match according to your taste. Hazelnuts is a popular one as well. Also, I've got a cup of coconut, and that's going to kind of bind it all together. Beyond that, some cocoa powder, and that, in this case, our recipe calls for 3 tablespoons, but really, it's to taste. How much chocolate do you like? Some people will put in 2 tablespoons, some might put in 4. Remember, a tablespoon is about 7 or 8 grams if you're looking that way. And finally, this is something I didn't use in the little truffle balls I made. But using bars, we want to get a smooth consistency, so I've got some coconut oil that I just melted at a real low temperature to keep the whole thing raw, and also raw cocoa powder if you want to keep everything completely raw. And that's about it. All I'm going to do is process these 2 ingredients together. It just takes 1 shot through the juicer, and then I'll just add in the other ingredients, roll it out, flatten it, and it's ready to go. One thing I want to mention, when I first was looking at recipes, it said, process these in your food processor. So I started thinking, oh, do I have to buy a food processor? We have an old one that's stuck in the garage. It's a hassle to put together. It's a hassle to clean up. Doesn't work so well. And then I thought, wait, I've made different things using the 707 like a food processor. I've made peanut butter, I've made cashew butter, salsa, guacamole, things like that. And as it turns out, for those kind of items, if you've got something hard like these, or something like these dates, it works great as a food processor. I didn't need to have something else sitting on my counter. I didn't need to go out and buy something, research it. So I was real excited that I could just use a 707. So what I'm going to do now is soak these dates, get some water going. This will take about 5 minutes, then it'll be ready to go. So I'm ready to go. These dates have been soaking. Plenty of time. Make sure to use the blank screen. That's the secret to making these kind of food processor type things, nut butters, what have you. Remember, this doesn't have a juicing screen on it. Everything is going to be homogenized and squeezed out the end. That's the secret. If you leave your juicing screen in there, you'll have a surprise, some sort of strange date syrup or something. So all I'm going to do is alternate dates and nuts till they're mixed together, and then I'll add the other ingredients. Again, these have all been pitted. I don't want to hear a crunching sound. And again, I'm just alternating these things for two reasons. One, the nuts will help push the dates through. And second, it just means less stirring at the end, because I'll stir this all together. Now the truffles I made last week, I actually pre-soaked the cashews for about 10 minutes in water. And the result was this was a lot smoother, a lot more moisture. But that's why I've got the melted coconut oil there. So it looks like that's about all that I'll get out of here. And I don't know if you can see, it has a look, if you've ever had Fig Newtons, if you're aware of those super popular cookies in the US, this kind of reminds me of it. And you've got dates instead of figs, but it's a similar thing. So what I want to do is kind of smush this around just a bit, and then I'll start adding the other ingredients. It's mixing together really nicely. I just lightly melted some coconut oil. About a tablespoon is all you need. Again, I had a cup of dates, a cup of cashews, and a tablespoon of coconut oil so far. Yeah, it's coming together quite nicely. Put in the chocolate next, or cocoa. Unfortunately, I didn't think I've got an oily spoon, but that's okay. Again, this is according to your taste. How much of a chocolate fan are you? I'm going to start with 3 tablespoons of cocoa powder. You want to add that after the oil, because you know how cocoa powder is. It's so light, it gets everywhere. If it gets a little too hard to handle, add a little more coconut oil if you want it a little thinner. I've worked this into a real dense, almost like a paste, but it's like a shiny ball of dough. Now the ones I made, the truffle balls, I rolled them in coconut. This recipe actually calls for adding the coconut, and it might be interesting to see how it penetrates in there. I'm just going to start with about 1/3 of it. Going back to the spoon to work it in. So I've been working this stuff with my hands. Originally I didn't want to on a video. I thought, oh, I'll look nice with a spoon or a spatula. But at home, I like getting my fingers dirty, especially mixing something like this. Now, normally I would use a plastic bowl because it wouldn't be sliding around and it wouldn't be sticking so much. But for the video, I wanted to use a glass bowl, which means it's sticking more. Now, since it's sticking, I'm going to add more coconut. I originally put in about 1/2 cup. The coconut is absorbing the moisture. So it's adding flavor, but it's also making the dough, I guess if you want to call it, a lot more malleable, a lot more workable. And yeah, it goes a lot better this way. So this is as processed as it needs to be, just by spooning and hand kneading. So what I'm basically going to do now is spread this out onto some wax paper, and I want to roll it out just to maybe a 1/2 inch thickness. And I can use a knife here to kind of square off the edges as I go. got the second piece of wax paper here so it doesn't goop up and stick all over the rolling pin. It's not like rolling a pie crust where you'd just be doing this because it'll just slide all over the place. You just got to apply a little force and roll it out like that. And it rolls out super nicely. And this is as thin as I need. You're not going to get a perfect square. It depends how much of a perfectionist you are. So I've made sort of a rectangle shape, and I'm already slicing it up. What I'm doing is one big slice down the middle, and then whatever size you want. So I just like to wrap them up in a strip of wax paper. You just wrap it up, tie some string around it, and you'll get something that looks like this. Looks nice, easy to handle. One other thing you can do, I've got some extra left over here. If you want to do something quickly, just roll it into a ball, and then you can roll it in some coconut. That looks really nice too. I've also seen people roll them in bowls of cinnamon. So thanks for watching. If you want any more information about the 707 juicer, just come to our website. That's www.EUJUICERS.COM. I'm Dan, and I'll see you next time.